Hello and welcome, Woodrow Wilson friends, family, and students. This is Ms. Fields here, and I'm joining you tonight for our 19th episode of Math Toolbox. The skill we're going to be focusing on tonight is reducing fractions to their simplest form. Now, with every addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division word problem with our fractions, our fifth graders are going to end that problem by getting an answer of some sort. Whether it's the quotient, whether it's the product, the sum, the difference, they're going to get an answer of some sort. The expectation is that when they're in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade and working with fractions, that their answers are in simplest form. So the strategy that we're focusing on tonight is going to be preparing our 5th graders for their future mathematics with fractions, and I'm going to give them a sneak peek to what to expect. So as you can see, we have a fraction here, and that fraction is 4/8. The numerator is 4, the denominator is 8, and that 8 tells us how many times our whole is split up. 4 of those 8s are making up this half of, let's say it's a pizza. So one thing that I do to ensure that my fraction is in simplest form is I like to divide the top and the bottom by 2. Now, I really want to emphasize that the strategies that I'm giving you guys tonight are just what I use when I am reducing fractions. There are many other ways, but I wanted to give you guys 2 of the simplest strategies that I use in simplifying fractions. So my first go-to whenever I'm simplifying a fraction is dividing the numerator and the denominator by 2. Now, after I divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, whatever my quotient is over here, I'm going to see if I can do that same process of dividing by 2 again until I can't do it anymore. So when I divide my numerator by 2, I get 2. When I divide my denominator by 2, I get 4. 2/4. Now, when I divide the top and the bottom of our fraction by 2, I am not changing the value of the fraction. In fact, 4/8 is exactly equivalent to 2/4, and that's because whatever I did at the top, I did to the bottom. It's exactly the same value. So it looks different, but it's exactly the same value. Like I said before, these 2 fractions are equivalent, and if you were to illustrate this out, which I highly encourage my 5th graders to do, you can see that they are exactly equivalent. And if we're conceptualizing these 2 fractions like maybe something from the real world, we can pretend like this is pizza. This is still equivalent to this amount of pizza. Even though it looks divided up and it looks like more because there's more pieces, the whole's cut into 8ths, whereas this whole is cut into 4ths, the value of the 2 fractions are exactly the same. Now, like I said before, I'm just going to keep dividing my numerator and my denominator by 2 until I can't anymore. So after we divided 4/8 divided by 2, top and bottom, we're left with our 2/4. We're going to do the same thing again until we can't anymore. 2 divided by 2, we get 1. 4 divided by 2, we get 2. Our fraction is 1/2. Now, I know in my mind, if I tried dividing 1 by 2, it wouldn't work. You could divide 2 by 2, but the numerator also has to be able to be divided by 2 if you want to keep the value of the fraction exactly the same. Now, like I said before, whenever you are reducing a fraction into its simplest form, you're not changing the value, you're just changing the appearance of the numerator and the denominator. Now, that was my first strategy, dividing the numerator and the denominator by 2. What happens when you have odd numbers? Here we've got 6 and 9. Numerator is 6, denominator is 9, meaning that our whole is split up into 9 equal portions, and 6 of those are filled in. You can pretend like this is 6/9 of a chocolate bar. How do we simplify this fraction? How do we reduce it? Now, because it's odd, you can't divide it by 2. Doesn't work. My second strategy for you to go to, if it's not evenly divided by top and bottom by 2, is to divide by 3. As before, you're going to divide the numerator and the denominator by 3 so that you don't change the value of the fraction. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. These two fractions are exactly equivalent. Like I said before, when you're reducing fractions to their simplest form, you're only changing the appearance. So if we were to compare these two fractions one on top of the other, if this was a piece of candy and this was a piece of candy, the 6/9 portion would be equivalent to the 2/3 portion. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for this episode of Math Toolbox. If reducing fractions is something that's a challenge for you, no worries, come back to this video over and over again. Like I said before, this is a strategy and a skill that will be used and applied from 6th grade on. Anytime our 5th graders will encounter fractions in their future mathematical lives, they're going to be expected to reduce fractions into simplest form. Like I said, dividing by 2 top and bottom and dividing by 3 top and bottom are only two strategies that you can use in simplifying fractions, but for me, those are my immediate go-tos. So please use them. I can't wait to see you guys Monday morning. Have a good night.